Next topic we're going to talk about are 25 job interview questions for success that I answer. So, my resume may read pricelessly, but finding a job can be definitely super difficult for everyday people, especially within our current job market and economy. Even someone with my resume can struggle finding a job, especially as all of these companies recruit employees and will not even see your resume unless you pass through the hands of recruiters who will not communicate your resume effectively to the employer. And also, in today's world, you must simply do your best in all aspects of job application process, but the algorithms and the software that they implement can literally filter out your resume, and the employer just electronically may not ever see your resume because the document itself is filtered out as a top candidate. So there's so many different intricacies that you need to focus on when trying to reach your end goal of getting that job offer. And it all starts with having a very effective resume, getting through the software programs to becoming a good candidate, eventually getting your interviews, and then not just, doing well in interviews, which is actually pretty difficult, but also trying not to waste your time on tons of interviews that may not even go anywhere. You want to spend your time most effectively and reach the best outcomes. And then once you've got your offer, you also then have to think about negotiating the best job details as well as pay, vacation time, and other details. So there's a lot that goes into the whole interview process, and it all comes down to, for instance, the job interview, which we will discuss here. There are definitely questions that are most asked, and we will go into that. In today's world, you must simply do your best in all aspects of the job application process, and step one is acing the first and follow-up interviews. The only way to do this is practice, 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 and I also definitely complete countless interviews, knowing that each one is great practice for the one that truly matters. Below are definitely going to be some sample responses I would provide based on my experience, my background, and my research, as well as based on my specific background in environmental science, technology, and law. So the first question that's very commonly asked is, can you tell us about yourself? Sure. I am very excited about this role because I have a bachelor's in environmental with 4 years performing data analyst, technology troubleshooting, and compliance work for NOAA. I served X doing X, I served X doing X, and most importantly, my master's in environmental law will set me aside and apart from your other candidates. I also served X performing environmental law compliance reviews for 3 years, which allowed me to effectively apply my master's degree for multi-million-dollar projects. As you can see, I'm very passionate about environmental law, and I cannot wait to pursue X at your company. So yes, I didn't want to go all into my details, so I'm putting in the letter X. Next, why do you want to work for our company? Note, definitely be sure to research the company and/or review the job description before your interview, because this makes this question 10 times easier. My answer? I am very enthusiastic about your position because it includes X, X, and X, which will allow me to best utilize my master's in environmental law. My master's in environmental law is very important to me, and so I'm very excited about your position and would love to see. And I love what I see online about your company. A career serving you is very rewarding, and based on my research, I think I would make a great asset to your team. Question number 4, what are your long-term career goals? Your positions include duties performing X, X, and X. I would love to pursue X and X for the next 10 years. I am very open to gaining additional certifications, qualifications, and degrees if there's something that you would support as well. In the long term, I'm definitely looking for a complex, long-term career in X that keeps me challenged and growing as a professional. I definitely do enjoy having more challenging positions that really expand upon my background in technology, science, and environmental law. So I would also be interested in maybe pursuing upper level degrees if that's something that you're interested in as well. How do you handle stress and pressure? I often go through each day reducing stressors through a well-planned lifestyle and communication skills. I am often pretty resilient and combat pressure and adversity head on. I will often reflect extensively on what is occurring and ongoingly plan actions that one may take to improve upon the situation. I'm pretty adaptable and I visit complex tasks early and often, and I think this really allows me to complete tasks with less stress and less pressure that's often caused by procrastination. So I don't procrastinate and instead I visit the different tasks early and often, and that's really how I mitigate stress and achieve my goals. I really also like having a well organized calendar and checklists. I think they really enhance my productivity and minimize my stressors. Can you give an example of a difficult work situation that you have faced and how you handled it? In my last position, there was a female who went missing in action, not telling anyone within her team where she went, and it was 1 p.m. when she decided to depart work without telling anyone. She went home, and then the next morning she never showed up for work without any approved vacation time or sick leave. In this moment, I did not enjoy the challenge of the situation because the individual just went missing in action and wasn't really following chain of command in which she was to inform not just her team but her managers, myself. And so within the federal government job that I had, we were a emergency management agency, and so these types of challenges are definitely handled procedurally in a very specific way. And so what I ended up doing within this situation is I ended up following procedure and the chain of command by literally checking on her well-being and status by reaching out to HR as well as the health and safety officers and security officer as well. So she did not show up for work the next day, and I reported the incident to these individuals, and it was very important for us to follow these procedures because when people go missing, it is often a safety issue and it can be due to injury or death. So I definitely maintained a professional concern for her well-being in accordance with my employer's guidelines. And this is not a very positive or enjoyable situation because we really don't like to see individuals not following procedures. So in the end of the day, I kept all professional and objective in accordance with company guidelines and checked on the employee safety as well as reported the issue up the chain of command. How do you work in a team environment? I am a very enthusiastic team player who enjoys working with others. I also value and appreciate opportunity to research heavily and independently. I usually do more than those around me, but that is just me, and I always do the best that I can in all that I do. I definitely allow others to participate and offer their feedback in their own way. I recognize the strengths and the weaknesses of all team members and often take a leadership role within the team, but I'm also not afraid to be a great follower and listener within my teams as well. How do you prioritize your work? I do enjoy checklists and calendars and to-do lists. I regularly reorder my list based on priorities and the complexity of tasks. For instance, I do prefer to handle more complex tasks early and often, and so I will often, instead of procrastinating these, I will actually move them closer to earlier on within my day. That way I can work on them more frequently and more so in order to really accomplish these complex tasks more effectively. Can you describe your experience in X skill or area? Yes, when it comes to environmental law, I have completed compliance reviews for X and X projects across California, Florida, Saipan, as well as other states throughout the United States. My master's degree in environmental law from Vermont Law School is also very helpful as an asset to you within this role because it really establishes a great foundation that I work from with regards to implementing my understanding of environmental law within the compliance actions for my agency. What motivates you to do your best work? My character, my values, and my personality require me to do the best I can at all the things that I do. I also definitely enjoy the different things that I do, and I think that really enhances my motivation and really enhances the outcomes within my work. Can you explain a project you completed and the outcome? I really enjoyed my compliance review project for a historic school on the tiny island of Tinian, Northern Mariana Islands, because this site offered complex, intricate details of XX and X, which really made the use of my expertise in environmental law, specifically in ESA and NHPA, very vital. And so overall, I do enjoy more complex tasks, and with regards to my favorite project, I really enjoyed this project because it really analyzed endangered species and the adverse impacts to historic properties on that island. Now, obviously, for this question, you can definitely assess like what is your job description and really go into a little bit more detail, like different things that you assessed within the project and different outcomes that you achieved. And usually the measurable statistics or measurable outcomes that you can describe, they can really enhance your answer. How do you keep up to date with industry developments? I love technology and research. Research and development is something that I truly enjoy, and I often simply perform a lot of research and complete online certifications for fun. For example, I have recently completed over 350 EMI certifications, Emergency Management Institute, courses that are offered for free online. And so for me, the way to keep up to date is just by simply being passionate about the things that I'm doing, and I think because I'm enthusiastic about what I do, being up to date on industry developments is actually quite easy, especially when you're pursuing certifications within your own time. Why did you leave your previous job? I was looking for a challenging opportunity that furthers my background in X, but also located closer to X. I like keeping this one short and sweet. And anytime you have the opportunity to provide shorter and sweeter answers, you should definitely do so. Because, at least for me, I am definitely a little detailed, and therefore I know that if I can shorten a response, it is probably only going to benefit me and the interviewer. The reality is, if they want to know more, they will ask you another question. So you will probably never lose by providing a too short answer, because if they want to know more, they will ask. I also like to create a little bit of diversity within my answers. If one answer is super lengthy and detailed or complicated, I like to follow that up with a simple response anytime possible, because that diversifies the situation and really allows people to kind of be more engaged instead of just falling asleep. So definitely diversify your responses and, keep things going in a little bit more unique manner. If you answer one response super long, definitely be sure to follow that up with shorter responses randomly throughout your interview. What are your salary expectations? Okay, so I never answer first. Instead, I tend to reply with, what salary are you able to offer? I personally do not like discussing the numbers myself. I prefer to get to know what their numbers are and see if that fits within my criteria. Question number 15, do you have any questions for us? What are your expectations for the candidate that you are selecting for this role? What are you looking for, and what is your timeline for hiring someone? Is there a certain aspect of my resume that you really like or find to be missing? So these questions will definitely allow you to not just show interest, but also it'll allow you to see what they are really focusing on within your resume and your interview. And it allows you the opportunity to actually comment in response to what they say. And then not just that, it also provides you the opportunity to understand what are their expectations for the role, for the candidate, and you definitely want to be sure to ensure that you're asking questions. And so when they specifically ask you a question, hey, do you have any questions? If you're not asking a question, then you have literally failed this interview. The most important thing for you to do within an interview is to ask a question, because it shows your interest and it shows that you understand the job description, you understand the company, and that you've done your research. If you have no questions, then you don't seem interested or knowledgeable or intelligent. Intelligent individuals do their research prior to the interview and they have at least one question. Number 16, how do you handle conflicts with colleagues or supervisors? When there are conflicts with colleagues or supervisors, I often utilize my experience and coursework in conflict resolution. I normally start by asking questions to better understand the other party's perspective. I request the presence of a mediator to aid us in resolving the conflict, and I usually find effective communication can really reduce tension and resolve conflicts. So I definitely be sure to focus on listening and understanding the other person and their perspectives. And that usually does help us minimize the conflicts and come to a congruent way forward that we can all positively go toward. Number 17, what sets you apart from other candidates? Note, above is qualifications and resume focused. So I definitely slip in character, personality, or soft skills when I can into my responses. And so here, when they ask what sets me apart from other candidates, yes, I could focus on my resume, but I literally talked about that the entire interview. Why should I talk about that within this question? Instead, proffer some insight into my character, personality, and soft skills anytime possible. So, my answer: people often find that my passion and enthusiasm and resilience set me apart from other candidates. And I'm definitely a pretty quick learner, so I can often do most anything I put my mind to because of my enthusiastic personality and my ability to learn things quickly. And so I think that is what would be most an asset to you within this job description and role. I think my enthusiasm and my ability to quickly dive into very complex job descriptions is really how I can most effectively serve your needs and really accomplish the different things that you need. Can you describe a time when you took initiative to solve a problem? As a U.S. Coast Guard veteran, I am often proactive about improving myself and improving processes. I often draft manuals and improve SOPs. And when I served Company X, we did not have an SOP for emergency RV response vehicles. And so, even though it was outside of my duties listed for my job description, I drafted the first ever SOP on this topic, which was X pages long. I enjoy going above and beyond and really helping out in any way I can within the jobs that I have. I do enjoy being challenged, and anytime I can create like a manual or an SOP, I actually do enjoy doing that because I love researching, formulating a very technical document, and adding in photos that can clarify for any audience to really learn and implement the procedures within the manual. How do you handle criticism or feedback? I'm a very great listener. I consume and reflect extensively about all the feedback that is provided to me. My personality is always meticulous and very much focused on finding ways to improve, so I often focus heavily on all that is shared with me. Note, I use the word share on purpose. It is a very positive word, and when you use positive words like this within your interview, it'll really enhance their perspective and the positive situation that you're communicating. So definitely be sure to, within interviews, utilize positive words more often and definitely avoid negative words. Word choice is important. You want to leave your audience thinking positively as much as possible instead of negatively about different topics. Question 20. Can you give an example of a successful collaboration with a colleague? For my career with X, all of my compliance reviews required collaboration, and this is because we all have our own specialties and our own experience and qualifications. Therefore, I usually complete my environmental reviews based on the following laws: X, 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 and X, and then my teammate reviews the historic laws of X, X, and X when they have the qualifications to provide the tier level reviews. And so my master's in environmental law and policy really enhances my ability to provide the compliance reviews, but in order to achieve the final outcome of a very good quality review, I definitely have to collaborate with my team and ensure that we are all together establishing the best final determinations on each law. And then within the collaboration process, we do have a manager that will review our compliance determinations. And so as the manager reviews the determinations, we're able at that point to implement our determinations into the software program that can basically output that information and the decision to the stakeholder. And so within these projects, we are definitely collaborating with peers, supervisors, stakeholders, clients, and we are also asking for requests for information from our clients throughout the process. If there are any information missing within the project details itself. So there's actually a lot of collaboration that goes into each project and compliance review. How do you approach learning and development? I enjoy learning early and often. When topics are complex, I ensure I visit these topics early on and dedicate enough time to them, but also visit each topic frequently. I enjoy reading, writing, and collaborating with others in order to learn things in the long term with much attention to detail. Can you describe your leadership style? I often lead by example. I maintain an open door policy and am pretty transparent, especially with regards to communication, and I embody a high level of values and standards. I enjoy doing a lot of team building, and I often know more about others than they get to know about me because I am often a pretty good listener and tend to ask a lot of questions because then I can really understand the strengths and the weaknesses of others and really understand how to achieve the best outcomes within each deliverable that I have for my job. Can you give an example of a time when you had to make a difficult decision? In my last job, I brought a guidance procedure document to the attention of my supervisor because I noticed the content was obsolete, links were no longer functioning, and the content was no longer effectively communicating the present day compliance procedures. I proactively informed my supervisor. I'm pretty busy with projects, but I'm definitely willing to update this document for the team if you want. I noticed it is obsolete and has old links, etc. My supervisor responded, "Don't touch this document. Things take a act of God. Just do nothing." I was basically asked to do nothing, do not update this document, do not be proactive, and not improve the procedures in place in accordance with present day standards. So it was actually a very difficult situation for me to not go above and beyond and make updates to this document or do all that I can within my job. Even if I'm busy, I would rather make time to improve upon processes versus doing nothing. But in this situation, I was forced to make a very difficult decision to basically do nothing in accordance with my supervisor's statements to do that. So, in this situation, it was a very difficult decision to basically go against what I prefer and literally just implement no action to improve the documents and procedures in place. In the end of the day, your supervisor probably has eyes on something that has gone into consideration with regards to making that decision. So maybe they just wanted you to focus on X instead of X because your time is valuable and the outcome of the deliverables that you were focusing on elsewhere are more important. Question number 24. How do you handle tight deadlines or multiple projects at once? I am pretty effective at multitasking and managing multiple complex projects at once. It's actually something that I really enjoy. My career often has high-profile compliance documents to complete on strict deadlines. Regulators do not consider excuses when it comes to delays. I complete multiple important tasks in tight deadlines by constantly prioritizing my projects, organizing daily tasks, and working on more complex, important tasks both early and often. Can you explain a situation where you had to adapt to a new challenge or change? As a X, I am often experiencing challenges that force me to be adaptable to changes. Most recently, my job with X relocated me to a new duty site where I, instead of working on compliance projects for X, I started doing compliance projects for X, X, and X. And the new location and new compliance projects allowed me to work on a variety of different projects that really required a lot of time to establish a great understanding of. It really required a lot of hard work and communication with a new team, as well as collaborating with a new set of stakeholders. And so here, the most important thing was that I was adaptable. And in my duty location and my duties itself, I had to learn the new compliance requirements for this area and be able to make determinations on each law that are specific to the specific details for each project within this job site, and also work with a whole different set of people along the way. Okay, so I think that was a lot of example questions answered. Hopefully you found that helpful. Some key points were definitely keep it positive, definitely keep it varied, with both long or short answers, but overall, keeping the entire interview shorter is in my opinion better because you're always able to ask questions and answer more questions. If they have any questions about the interview, they can always ask you. And so it is worse to be too detailed than it is to be too short, in my opinion. Important things to think about. Job searching is kind of like dating. The ones that fall through the cracks are probably not a good fit for you anyway, and interviews qualify you. But remember, you must qualify them too. So it is very important that you assess whether this job and the employer is worthy of you and your time. Are they a good fit for your qualifications, and are they really offering you a job description that you would truly enjoy putting your time into? Is everything in alignment and fitting well together? Does your employer embody your values? Is the work culture going to be good? Do they offer you a good pay, benefits, positive work environment? These different things can actually be obvious within the questions that they ask and how they ask each question. And so there have been interviews in which the employer has asked me a certain question, and based on them asking me that question, I knew straight off that I would not be accepting a job with them. If the interviewer sounds unhappy, stressful, highly critical, argumentative, definitely expect your workday to include these types of things too. And if the job asks you about private information, definitely consider whether they have negative ulterior motives behind these questions. Also, remember that when you talk too much, be sure to follow with a short and sweet answer to spice things up a bit. If you blabber on forever in every single question, all is less interesting, and they can always ask you more questions. It is always better to say less, not more. It is always better to be a better listener than a better talker. Less is more, and also not just answer the questions well, and not be too lengthy, but definitely let them ask you more questions. If they want you to clarify, they will ask for you to clarify. And then the other thing is, when you have a background like mine in compliance and law, you tend to understand that you can easily say the wrong thing and then basically exclude yourself as a good candidate. So honestly, it is always better to say less for that reason as well. If you say less, you're less apt to say the wrong thing. So keep it short, keep it sweet, and definitely focus on your strengths and qualifications listed in your resume that are specifically specified in the job description, but also specified in the values and in your research about the company itself. So if you've not done research about the company, then you've probably not set yourself up for success for that interview. Now, here is a little bit of a funny story. One of my favorite jobs that I always talk about is with Alameda County Water District. I actually applied for 2 separate positions from that agency. And it was really funny. One day I received a call from the manager asking to set up a time for the interview. We set up the interview, and I literally started the interview having technically not done much research. Because, at the time I was actually working 12-hour days, 7 days a week, out in the middle of the ocean, internet spotty, like every excuse in the book. But anyway, for that job, I actually applied for 2 jobs, and I actually entered the interview thinking that I was interviewing for the other job, which was more environmental. But instead, the interview was for the engineering position, and I'm actually not an engineer. I have engineering coursework and highly technical background, but my position and/or background is more science, technology, and law. So anyway, started the interview, and the interviewer opened up, clarified the job description. My face was like, uh-oh. I have no idea what this job is going to entail. But it's definitely not the wrong job I expected to interview about. But anyway, in this situation, I actually handled it perfectly, and I ended up with a job offer, which was a really good pay and a very good situation. And the way that I did it was I entered this interview making the connection that I literally did not have any way to prepare because I was on the wrong interview. And what I ended up doing the entire job interview was asking questions, listening diligently to each question, and literally providing the best response that I can, basically comparing my background to what they want. And so, for instance, if they asked me, so what is your experience in drinking water quality? My response was literally that aboard our ship, we do require compliance actions for drinking water as well as other issues. And here we actually keep a log of our actions. We do daily rounds walking around the ship to ensure there are no spills and our drinking water is good and the data is good. And we analyze all this data on our computers with our software. And so, knowing all of this today, I actually realized today in reflection that these were really good responses, because literally all I needed to do was ask questions, understand what they want, and provide them comparisons with my actual experience. And you know what? If they choose me, they choose me. The reality is they chose me, and it was really funny because I was ill prepared, and within 3 days, they actually provided me the job offer. And within like just a couple days after, I ended up going to that job, starting the work, and I think that it was a really good job opportunity, and I think that I did really well. And it was all because within the interview, all you can do is your best, but if you ask questions, you're setting yourself up for success, because it is way easier to answer questions when you know what they want. So get an idea of what they want by understanding the question well and asking questions throughout the interview process. That way, you're setting yourself up with success to allow yourself to provide the best possible answer. That's why researching is so important. So, that is all for now. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn a little bit more tips on improving your interviews, resumes, or anything else, be sure to comment below, because I would love to help you within your journey of finding the best job and doing interviews. And I am pretty open to answering questions if you have any. Sorry, my background's pretty complicated, so my answers within this entire video is probably a little complex. I apologize. But I was trying to provide you examples based on my credentials and my background. So all of these questions are actually commonly utilized by employers, and you'll definitely want to kind of mold these different answers into your own background. Don't just cookie cutter use my answers, but like understand that you do want to implement, positivity, word choice, research, into your interview processes. Ask questions throughout your interview, things like that. There's definitely a lot of similarities you'll want to implement. So good luck on your interview process, and be sure to subscribe and check out other videos in my business album. Talk to you all later, and good luck.